Hello YouTube, this is Aleczaender with another video for y'all today. I wanted this video a little bit ago, a couple of days ago, but I've been kind of procrastinating it. But the video, as you'll see, is titled, Why We Must Win. And it's a very valid question. A lot of you have asked me about Leutgard, and, well, I say a lot, it's actually not very many people. Who is Leutgard? What are his beliefs? Why do we not like him? Why must there be an alternative to Leutgard is the question that I've been getting asked recently by a couple people. Most people that are part of this revolution know why we're fighting Leutgard. We know exactly why. We've been around a long time. But there are a lot of people that are new to the lore, that are coming in through root media. Maybe they're from Bonastic. They just haven't really logged in a while. And they're asking me, why do we hate this guy? And when I tell them why, they understand why, but I think it's warranted that we make a video kind of discussing the point-by-point basis on who I am, who Leutgard is, why Zaenderism is better than Leutgard. The final question is why Zaenderism must win, why the genre must win over Leutgard. So this is a little bit more of a vibe. We got some lo-fi hip-hop playing in the background. We're going to go through this, and it's going to be a pretty relaxing experience, not as crazy as the other ones, where we just go through the slideshow and we hit it point by point by point. Who is Aleczaender? Who is Leutgard? Who is Aleczaender? Who is Leutgard? So the introduction to this slideshow is the following. We are going to demonstrate the difference between myself and Leutgard, and this was actually inspired by Root Media. Root Media did a video recently on me, and in the beginning of the video, they did a very quick 10-second diagram, compare and contrast between me and Leutgard. Aleczaender is a Christian nationalist urban traditionalist. Leutgard is a militant atheist homosexual. And that was it. But a lot of you looked at that, and I thought it was pretty funny. They're like, well, between the militant atheist homosexual gay Nazi, and the based and red-pilled Christian nationalist, heterosexual, maybe asexual, incel, whatever, I'm going to go with the Christian nationalist because he's more based. But this slideshow is going to compare, basically out of inspiration, me and Leutgard on those same topics. The politics, the ideology, the personality, the behavior, the community. What is the difference between Teutonia and Octavium? Most people, if you join my group or join Teutonia, you will find out what those differences are very quickly. Give it a few weeks or a few months, you will know that their group is way different than my group, and there is a reason why a lot of people prefer my group over Teutonia. And a lot of people, while knowing that fact, are still confused why Leutgard has more members, why he has more activity, why he can rally more people. We're going to get into that in this video. But the objective in this slideshow is not really to explain why he has more members. It is to break us down on a one-to-one on every, I guess, dynamic. Politics, personality, gameplay, content, community. So, there's a lot of glazing going on with Leutgard, and there are a lot of Teutonians who don't really know the stuff I'm about to talk about Leutgard. Some of the stuff is not really like allegations. There is a part that goes into the allegations about me and Leutgard. It is more so to show this is who Leutgard is, this is who I am. There are Teutonians who have mistaken Leutgard as a Christian. Where they get this idea from, I don't know. There are Teutonians who have no idea who Leutgard is, and yet they have been under him for months. This is because Leutgard is not very active with this community. He's not very present with this community. So there's a lot of ignorance on who this guy is. And we are going to break that down in this video so that we are all on the same page. This video was mainly made to really talk about this to Zaenderists, but there are also a lot of Teutonians or a lot of bystanders who don't know why this war exists, why there needs to be an alternative. Why is it a bad thing that Leutgard owns the genre? There's a common sense reason to why that's a bad thing. But we are going to go into nitty-gritty detail on why that is a bad thing and what an alternative vision under Aleczaender an alternative genre led by me would look like. So we're going to go through this. We're going to read the slideshow. We're going to do a raw comparison between me and Leutgard. This starts off with the personality. Who is Aleczaender? And of course, with this video that I'm doing, the format will be in third person, so that is less awkward. So do forgive me for going in third person. It's for the sake of the video to kind of paint a picture. Who is Aleczaender? He is an extrovert. He respects those who are hardworking, loyal, and smart. He is also rewarding those who are loyal and smart. As it says in the Zaenderist concepts, the most valuable members of Zaender society are those who are loyal and hardworking. They are judged by their loyalty and their work. He is an open-minded visionary. What does that mean? That means that Aleczaender is set in his ways to achieve his vision, his plan, and his aim. But he is doing it whilst also accommodating those who he is ready to sacrifice part of that vision in order to win. It does not need to be a perfect vision the way it was imagined. If the group gets destroyed, if the group gets hijacked, if there is a big betrayal with someone who is important to the plan, that plan can be changed to accommodate those issues. We're going to get into Leutgard's closed-minded vision, which, when the plan does not work out in his favor, he shuts down the whole project. He shuts down everything because things did not work out the way they're supposed to work out. Obviously, Leutgard doesn't really shut down projects anymore. He mainly waits till they get deleted. But when things fail, when things don't go as planned, immediately gives up on the vision that he originally had. You can see this with Stalemated. Leutgard, when Teutonia got deleted, was ready to give up Stalemated to do an entirely new project because Teutonia got deleted in the moment. That's not an open-minded visionary who accommodates the struggles to make the vision work. That is someone who is closed-minded. It is someone who, when the vision starts to fail, gives up and immediately decides to do a brand new project. Aleczaender enjoys frequent activities with his members, such as game nights, movie nights, and occasional socializing. He is interacting with the community. He is active with the community. He is commonly involved with his community every day. Even if it's just a couple DMs he's responding to, even if it's just a game night that's an hour long. Aleczaender is often involved in his community. He is a forgiving person who often is mocked for forgiving people that betray him constantly. He is a rational person who makes decisions not based on realism, not based on fantastic ideals or romanticism, but rather rationalism. Ideas that can happen because the math and the science and the logic says it can happen. They are possible ideas. He is a debater. When there is an issue, he will often debate people on those disagreements. He will often come to the discussion about those ideas and win at that discussion. He is not one to rush to the ban button immediately. He will first debate, rationalize, prove the point, then remove the person in the event that the debate is won, which oftentimes in his case it is. And will do the right thing over the easy thing. He will defend people who nobody else will defend, not because it is easy for him, but because it is the right thing to do in those situations. He will provide nuance and will go to bat, even if the allegations are scary and dangerous, because he believes in the right thing over the easy thing. He is bold in doing things that are controversial, that are risky, in order to achieve the vision and victory, and he is resilient in achieving that, meaning that he will not give up despite the struggle and despite all that is against him. That is Aleczaender. Who is Leutgard? Leutgard is an introvert. He is not a pompous, out there person who wants to be in front of the cameras 24/7. He does not often do interviews and wants to be in front of the camera with his face out there. He is an introvert. He is a person who is respectful only to his inner circle, to his developers, and to those who he seeks to control. What that means is people that are advantageous to him, people that are willing to betray Aleczander for Leutgard. Leutgard will immediately respect and will immediately accommodate until they are of no use. He is accommodating and respectful to those who have value to him, and that's it. Other than that, he has no respect for anyone. The lower class, the medium ranks, there is no respect for them unless they are of value to him. Because what he gauges as worthy of his respect is someone that will, I guess, bring him results, but really it's those who are close to him. The elite, the aristocracy, the inner circle. Those are the people that reap the rewards of his gratitude, of his respect, of his empathy. Everyone else below that, Leutgard has no respect for. Leutgard has said in private conversations that the people do not like him. They're not truly fanatical enough. They're not loyal enough to him. He has no need to put himself out there for them. If he says otherwise, he is lying, because that's what he's told people in private. He is a closed-minded hardhead. What that means, as I explained earlier, is he is someone who, if there is not a way to make his vision work, he will give up on it. He will not accommodate the struggle. He will not accommodate anything to make his vision work. He will give up, flee the scene, and start all over again. There is another person very similar to this, known as Dexys. Obviously, Leutgard is a lot more open-minded. He's a lot more resilient than Dexys, but there are very similarities between the two when it comes to their vision and what they seek to accomplish and achieve. He is not open to negotiations. We've seen this recently, where Leutgard is waging a total war on Zaenderism. He is not open to sacrifices. He is someone who is closed-minded, hard-headed, and unless he achieves victory or total victory, he is someone who is not open-minded to sacrifices to make the vision work. He will do everything the way that he originally intended, and when it does not work, he will either give up or, I guess, keep trying the same exact way he intended to do it, which is not healthy at all. Most of his time that is spent is not with the masses or the community, but it is spent with his inner circle. It is spent with people that know him. On occasion, maybe a Hoi for Gainmite and Stelmated. On occasion, maybe he'll chill with the Ruler's Guard. The Ruler's Guard is hardly known as the masses, though. They themselves are an elite aristocracy of people who Leutgard prefers to be around rather than the common stock of his own members. He is someone who is wrathful when he is wronged. It is an eye for an eye. He is a realist, which means that he is someone who does things that are realistic. He does not look at the math or the science or what can rationally be achieved. He looks at what is realistically achieved based on wisdom, what he has done in the past, and based on what he thinks in the moment. As opposed to rationalism, which is when someone rationalizes victory on what can be achieved based on a combination of factors. He is not a debater. He is a ruler. When Leutgard debates people, Leutgard will often do it with the advantage. He will choose a moderator that is biased to him. He'll do it on a server that he has admin in. When Leutgard has an issue with people, he will often debate it with them, but it will often use manipulation, tactics, and authority to get his way in the end. As opposed to the debater mindset, which is, I will only exercise my authority when I have clearly achieved victory through the means of discussion and conversation, where they are wrong and I am right. He will do the easy thing over the hard thing. Leutgard will often shoot first, ask questions later when someone is accused of being a degenerate or anything else. He will often do what is easiest, such as working with doxers, working with evildoers to achieve the victory, because it is easier to get what he wants. The language used is the ends justify the means. That is his mindset. He is arrogant, he is egotistical, and I have pride myself. Aleczaender himself has pride. But Leutgard has an arrogance about him where he must win. He must triumph over everything. He must be control of everything because he is the only person who is owed control over everything. If he is not in control of everything, then nothing will work. There could be truth to that in the sense where, sure, it would be easier to do things if Leutgard had more power, but he exercises authority to a degree where it's not necessary to do what he wants. For Teutonia to be successful, it does not need control over the rest of the genre. For Teutonia to be successful, Leutgard does not need control over Aleczaender. That is where he is arrogant. That is where his ego has gone way too far and has overstepped boundaries. He is someone who is sensitive. When he does not get his way, when there is massive failure, Leutgard will give up immediately and will not be resilient and go through the struggle to achieve victory. He will give up, he will retire, he will resign, and he will move on. Next, we have ideology. What are the beliefs of Aleczander? Aleczander is a reactionary. A reactionary is someone who reacts to what is going on in society, in the world, and has a reaction to it. In other words, a reaction that means the solution to the problems in that society. He is putting God over people. The will that Aleczander has ultimately is what God wants over the will of his own people. He is described as right-wing. Obviously, this is an accurate description. He is most definitely right-wing, not just IRL, but also online in the way that he runs his groups and in his inner circle, the people that he has around him. He will openly agree that Hitler was a charismatic leader who did some good things, but that Hitler was also running a country that had pagans, pagan traditions, pagan ancestry, that it is a gray area whether or not the goal was to put God first. He consistently has been conservative his whole life. It's ever since he was involved in politics, he has been conservative and right-wing. His ideology does not motivate the aesthetic of his groups. Aleczander has made groups that are communist, groups that are Roman, groups that are nationalist, monarchist, of all degrees. He is open-minded to other members' ideologies. Anarchists, communists, socialists, liberals, conservatives, atheists, homosexuals. It does not harm the loyalty. Unless the ideology that they have, unless their ideals harm the loyalty to him, they do not affect his viewpoint. He actually takes the loyalty of his people very seriously and demands it in absolutes to secure victory, because only through the loyalty of the people behind the leader can they achieve the victory over the enemy. His favorite North Korean leader, as opposed to Leutgard's favorite North Korean leader, is Kim Il-sung. The reason why this is in that slide is because Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il are extremely different leaders. Kim Il-sung, who built a bustling nation that was way more economically superior to South Korea. He was a pompous extrovert who was in front of the camera, who was constantly in front of people giving speeches. He was known as the friendly father, loved by the people, as opposed to Kim Jong-il, who Leutgard prefers, who is introverted, reserved. His country had famine. His country was economically in despair. He had sexual issues. He had a pleasure squadron. Kim Jong-il was a repulsive leader, as opposed to Kim Il-sung, who was way more charismatic, way more respected by the West, by many other people, by his own people, and by even Western leaders. Billy Graham went and visited North Korea under Kim Il-sung and had a very good relationship with Kim Il-sung. As a matter of fact, when Kim Il-sung was on his deathbed, he prayed, and I guess he sent his regards to Billy Graham, if I remember correctly. And most importantly, Aleczander believes that Christian nationalism will save the West. And then we have Leutgard. Leutgard is a revolutionary. He does not react to what is going on in society, but rather comes up with brand new ideas that are liberal, progressive, new to the population, presents them as a means of resolving problems. For instance, Leutgard does not believe that Christianity will save the West. He believes that a new form of government, inspired by North Korea and Red China, hero worship, he calls it, will be what saves the West. It will be what saves Europe. Not Christianity, but hero worship under some kind of autocratic regime. He believes that the heroes of the people are God, that the people themselves are God, and the heroes that are from the people should be worshipped as God. He is described typically as left-wing. This is not an accurate description of Leutgard. Leutgard is more accurately probably third positionist, maybe even apolitical, although a lot of his views do tend to veer more to the off-left. He will quietly say to his inner circle that Hitler was the greatest man that ever lived, and that Hitler would have been a greater leader had he allowed Ernst Röhm and the SA to run the army and to run the Third Reich. He will openly deny this in public and will openly make it sound like that the ideas that he had in 2018 and 2017 of National Socialism are far, far gone away, and that he rejects those ideas. Contrary to this, Leutgard actually, in private, does agree to some of these ideas, but his own twisted way, where he thinks that the Third Reich should have been this homoerotic nationalist empire where Ernst Röhm and Hitler are co-tagging and running the Third Reich, which is disgusting. No person that is far right or far left should see that as a sane viewpoint, in my opinion. He was a National Socialist for most of his life. He now prefers left-wing regimes like the DPRK and Red China, as it's the second best thing to the Third Reich in terms of aesthetics, in terms of government, in terms of everything about those regimes. They're the next best thing because there is nothing else closer to the Third Reich. He is ideology primarily motivates the aesthetics of his groups. He has only ever done German groups. In the last 5 years, since he has been obsessed with Kim Jong-il in North Korea, has only ever LARPed as Kim Jong-il, and he will often do things that are motivated by his own personal interests, and not things that are new, refreshing, and are more of interest to his own people. He is against the idea of ideological discussion or debate, mainly because it is, again, the easier thing to do over the right thing to do. Because there is no politics in Teutonia, more people join, it's more appealing to more people, although it is not healthy. And we'll get to more of that later. He demands fanaticism from his people, but does not demand any loyalty because it's bad optics. Leutgard in secret does prefer that his people remain loyal to a cult-like degree, kind of like Aleczaender, but openly does not demand it because he believes it looks bad. Remember, easy thing over the right thing, easy thing over the hard thing. He will, however, openly demand fanaticism from his people to go on crusades, to do extremely hard tasks like doxing Zaenderists, because obviously he is desperate to win, and the ends justify the means. His favorite recurring leader is Kim Jong-il, because Kim Jong-il is extremely like Leutgard, and he blames Christianity for the fall of the West. He believes that Christianity is manipulated by the Jews and is used by the Jews to funnel in mass immigration. There is 10% truth to this. There are evangelical organizations that are funding mass immigration. There are churches that are harboring illegal immigrants, but this is not most Christians. This is a small, extremely small amount of Christians. The majority of Christians actually tend to be conservative, and the majority of Catholics, if anything, especially traditional Catholics, believe in not only anti-illegal immigration, but are anti-immigration. Most Christians of the last 5 years have been adopting these ideas because obviously they've realized the harm that is brought to their society that has degenerated and subverted to the extent that it is no longer a Christian nation. The most conservative nations of the world were conservative Christian nations. The very nations that Leutgard would respect and adhere to and celebrate are that way because of Christianity. He fails to understand the facts, which is the fact that it's not Christianity that is the fall of the West, but it is the other religion supporting the fall of the West, funding the fall of the West, and putting in leaders to support the fall of the West through those ideas that subvert our society that are creating that. Christianity has no role in that subversive process since its foundation. What are the politics between Aleczander and Leutgard? Rather, not just their politics, but rather, what is their political history? Aleczander started politics at 15 years old. He joined a legitimate political organization called the Republican Party, which he is still active in to this day. His goal is to achieve political power through legal means as to restore Christian values in America. He does activism through door knocking, chapter building, tabling at colleges and high schools, and running political campaigns to win elections so that his people get into power to pass bills that get things done. Keep in mind, bills, not overthrowing the country through a paramilitary revolution. He is still successful at politics, still active, getting fellow American Republicans elected, and working closely with 21 USA and the Young Republicans. He helped run the Trump campaign in Eastern Michigan as a Trump campaign coordinator. knocking on hundreds of doors, getting petitions signed, training hundreds of captains, so on and so forth. Today, he continues getting people elected, working closely with the youth and the chapters that he built at colleges, getting things done. What are Leutgard's politics? What did Leutgard do when he was political? Well, Leutgard started politics at around 14 years old. Keep in mind, when we say start politics, we don't mean attending meetings and going to chapters. We mean that he was online, basically red-pilling his members, which isn't a bad thing, and building a thing known as the National Socialist Network, where they had study hours and groups and whatnot, where they learn more about the Third Reich and how they're going to recreate the Third Reich in North America. He joined a neo-Nazi secessionist organization known as the Northwest Front. There are various interviews that he's done where he is speaking as a representative of that movement on Rumble and BitChute, among other websites you can find him on. His goal was to achieve political power through the means of seceding from the Union. So that means the Northwest United States secedes from the rest of the Union to form their own country, to form a National Socialist ethno-state. His activism included going camping and educating children on Roblox about National Socialism and Hitler and the Third Reich, by the use of group projects and small reading circles. It did not involve activism that knocked on doors or got people elected. It involved activism which advocated for operations that could get you in legal trouble, actually. How does it help the youth? How does it help anyone? Set aside the National Socialist Nazism, okay, how do these activities help the youth in becoming better men for the future, and becoming better men for their future wives and families and whoever else in their community? It really doesn't. In fact, it destroys them. It introduces them to a toxic environment where they are not learning valuable skills, but are rather part of a giant LARP to, give power to Leutgard and to his bosses who he adhered to. He got kicked out of that nationalist movement for being a homosexual. Became one of Harold Covington's adjutants for the Northwest Front. Harold Covington was the leader of the Northwest Front, for those who don't know. Today, he LARPs as Kim Jong-il with no interest in politics and spends most of his real-life time in a low-paying government office where he's on a computer all day long. What are the morals between Aleczaender and Leutgard? Well, Alexander's morals is that he is a Christian, no sex until marriage, masturbation is a sin, young people should avoid alcohol, relationships that are not traditional relationships are degenerative and should be avoided, believes that one should always try to be honest, do the right thing, and tell the truth. He has never doxed anyone. He's never swatted anyone. He invites young people to political events to network, get jobs, and engage with like-minded people. Leutgard's morals are he is an atheist. He is anti-Christian. We've already discussed his anti-Christian views in the politics, or rather ideology section of the slideshow. He believes that men should have as much sex as possible, that it empowers them. He believes that masturbation is healthy and that men should do that. In addition to that, not mentioned in the slideshow, is that he also believes that men should watch porn. He thinks that young people should embrace alcohol as, even not as young as possible, but at a young, youthful age. He believes that people should date and marry whoever. However, he does not believe that homosexuals should be able to adopt kids. Very interesting take. So he does believe that people should go have sex with whoever, date whoever, do whatever. But they should not be allowed to adopt kids, which I think is very interesting. He believes that one should say and do everything to preserve one's own benefit, even if it means lying. What that means is that he believes that if Leutgard is accused, let's say that Leutgard is accused of doing something, and there is opportunity to lie about it, he will do it for the sake of self-preservation. So he believes in lying to save one's own skin. He believes doxing and other similar tactics should be weaponized against those who deserve it, especially against Aleczander and Zaenderism. He invites young people out to the pub to get drunk, banter, and potentially have casual sex afterward. It is still hearsay in whether or not his intention was to have sex with people, with boys as young as 17. It is proven that he has invited boys young as 17 to go out to the pub and fly out and hang out and be casual with them. Whether it would involve sex is unknown. He has discussed sexual topics with these young men. Whether he's going to do sex with them, so far there's no proof. Still a red flag. Still weird behavior compared to Aleczander, who is inviting young people out to events, to get jobs, to network, to hang out, meet like-minded people, and learn a couple of valuable skills. Massive, massive difference. Let's check out the comparison in their group atmosphere. People that are part of Alexander's group put the group over their own interests. The game content consists of battles, jobs, lore, roleplay, drama. There is constantly things going on in the game. It is not an AFK simulator. The group has immense detailed lore, going back several years, discussing in-depth background and political history and origin of the group. The history, the veterancy, everything about the group in the last 9 years is important to the group and its lore in the present day. Competition is healthy. There is little regulation for that competition, allowing for political maneuvers to be made as part of the group's roleplay. Roleplay, drama, politics are all things that are embraced by the group, not shunned for the sake of unity. At least that's why Teutonia has banned those elements in that group. Politics and religion are openly discussed and debated frequently in the chats. The community consists primarily of Christians, traditionalists, and nationalists. The energy feels organic, serious, fun, and spontaneous. And the values of this group atmosphere is strength, brotherhood, and loyalty. Let's see what Teutonia is all about. The members put their own interests over the group. Members are, I guess, climbing over each other to achieve ranks. They are loyal to the rank, not the group or the people of the group. The game content consists of going AFK, wearing a fancy uniform, which isn't even that fancy in the first place. It's just a German uniform and a Hugo Boss. And operating a dead border and defending in an active front line with few events sprinkled in between that are maybe a training here and there, a rally here and there, some other event here and there, and that's it. The group has vague lore going back maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Not much is knowing about what happened before that lore happened. No one knows about what happened in 2015, 16, 17, 18, 19, 12, 11, 10, 09, or 08. Mainly because at that time Lewis was a Nazi, and he tries to cover that up by not talking about the history that happened that time. In other words, he will say, I forget what happened during those years. Apparently Leutgard has severe dementia, forgets everything that happened before 2020. Competition is illegal. Coups are banned. Interfighting is banned. Competition is banned. You can compete with activity. You can compete by trying to outrally the other division. But it is otherwise banned. It is regulated. If you do as little as even stage a coup, even if that coup is warranted to replace someone who has been inactive and incompetent, the person that did the coup will be removed. Discussing politics and religion are banned. Community consists primarily of the irreligious. Irreligious meaning people that are atheist, agnostic. They are not religious. They are the opposite of religious. That does not mean that they are spiritual. That does not mean that they value relationship with Jesus Christ. That means these are people who are opposed to the idea of any organized religion, any organized prayer, any organized getting together and celebrating Mass. They are totally against that idea and believe in a society where religion is absent from the presence of society and community. It also includes people that are of the LGBTQ, gays, transgenders, furries, people of questionable sexualities, and opportunists. People who join the group because they are looking for an opportunity to rise up, achieve a higher rank, and leverage their power over everyone else. That is the average user of Teutonia. The energy feels inorganic, it feels casual, boring, and it feels controlled. There is never genuine power in the group because the power, in the way that it is organized, at any point in time, the top can always come down on the bottom. In Octavium, the power is organic, it is serious and fun. What that means is that people that have power to division have total autonomy on what they're allowed to do. They can do whatever they want with that power. They will only see micromanagement over that division when it either strays away from the structure of the group, or when the division is failing, going inactive, and falling apart. In Teutonia, everything is completely organized and structured in a way where nobody has any free will to do what they want to do, because it is in complete lockstep behind the unity of the group, which is to be a one-on-one copy of the Third Reich. It is a community that believes in the values of diversity, equity, and inclusion. They want a diverse community of as many people of different colors and creeds as possible. They appeal to that. They want to have equity, meaning they want to accommodate all of those people and give them a chance over the average user, who is probably going to be an edgy conservative, an edgy Christian, an edgy person who makes edgy jokes and is like everyone else. They will probably get the lower end of the stick in order to accommodate the lesser advantaged. And they are trying to be inclusive, meaning that they're trying to include everyone by not hurting their feelings, by not mentioning politics or religion. Again, they are doing the part that is easy over the part that is true. They're doing the part that is immoral because the part that is immoral is easier than the part that is true. Let's go over the game. What's their game like? So, the game that Aleczaender has is Checkpoint Madrid. It is a board that can be raided, infiltrated, and is full of activity. When we say full of activity, we don't mean the game numbers. We mean the border is active. Whenever the game is active, the border is active. The raids are frequent. There is constantly battles going on, constantly raids going on. There are different mafias, paramilitaries, and factions fighting for victory over Madrid. These factions organize the players for huge battles that go on sometimes for hours, well, depending on how big the faction is. Players typically are role-playing. They are socializing. They are engaging with other people. They're doing the jobs that are in the game. They are exploring the game because it is interesting and has things to do. There are jobs such as enforcement, guarding, fighting. There are no quotas for the average player. The city has fun jobs in itself where you can work. Shops you can buy things from, like guns, vehicles. There are things you can do. It is a small map that is easy to explore, as opposed to ABCC, which obviously is a large map, mainly wilderness. Most of the buildings are boring with little to explore or do. The jobs are broken. The quests are boring. It is an AFK simulator. The overall gameplay of Madrid is engaging, with new players building brotherhoods and bonds all the time. What is Leutgard's game like? Alpine Border Coastal Castle, also known as ABCC. The border cannot be raided because the raiders spawn on the other side of the map. The direction they are attacking is behind the border, not in front of the border. Also, the civilians can't really raid the border because there's no way to do so as a civilian. I believe if a civilian does by some miracle achieve a weapon, it is an arrestable offense, as it is in Octavium, but the point making is that it's hard, it's impossible to raid the border. It is barely any visitors that are attending the border. The border is inactive, and it is hard to infiltrate. It is hard to get through the border as a spy, as an enemy. You cannot jump over the border. You have to go around the border if you know how to do parkour to then infiltrate the city. Of course, even then, they have various precautions that make it harder to blend in because they will eventually be able to find out that you infiltrated the border. Players are typically AFK. They're on occasion attending events and whatnot, as I explained earlier, but they are most of the time AFK, dubbing the nickname of the game AFK Simulator. Quotas exist for both enlisted and officers. If you are an enlisted soldier in Teutonia, you are required to fill out literal forms of your activity. In return for that, you will not get demoted. In a best case scenario, for being active every day and putting in hours every day into the game, you will get promoted. In Octavium, we do not have quotas for enlisted. Enlisted are often promoted for their work, for hard work, for loyalty, for service. If they are seen often enough, or if they attend the events, they are promoted. As opposed to Teutonia, where it is a quota system where they are marking how many events they're attending, how many times, to keep the cog in the machine rolling. The city's jobs are broken. The quests are broken. The only thing you can really buy is a passport. It is boring to explore. Nobody is going to travel in the wilderness of constant forests and grassland to explore an empty wasteland. The game community is conditioned to focus only on the career. There is barely any brotherhood aside from the Ruler's Guard. Every aspect of the group aside from the Ruler's Guard has zero brotherhood. There is no one in the group that is there to make friends, only there to rise up the ranks, have power, and play the AFK simulator, which is going AFK the fancy uniform and having power over members of your own division, which will also be sitting there AFK with you doing nothing, which in other words means the power that they even have is not even real power, because everyone there has an agenda, absolute to their own being, not under the community or the group or under Leutgard. What is the genre vision? Well, the majority of Octavium's group and player base are owned by players. I said that wrong. So a genre vision under Aleczaender would look like this. The majority of groups would be owned by the player base. They would not be owned by Aleczaender. Obviously, Aleczander would own a couple of the groups that he made, but that's it, as he should. The goal of the genre is to build a community for RB2 to grow and prosper. What that means is that the community would exist for the players, not for Aleczaender's own selfish gain. It would be one skill map that all groups would play on, including minor factions and a lot of recruitment and expansion for those groups to expand and build up that player base. The genre would have full-scale battles across the world, meaning that it would have a template where you could have nations in America, Europe, Asia, and whatnot, fight battles in those different areas, and they would have a system where they would have army groups, an economy, resources to organize their armies and fight for territory in those lands. That would be the way of expansion and winning wars in a genre under Aleczaender. Leutgard's vision for the genre is that all groups must be owned by the genre holder, with the exception of observing groups, which are groups that are spectating the genre, not involved in the genre or the map or anything to do with the genre. The goal of the genre is to give Leutgard something to do. As Leutgard has said in private conversations, the goal of Stalemated and the groups owned by Leutgard is to be a punching bag for Teutonia. Teutonia is bored of AFK Simulator. The only way to keep Teutonia afloat is to give them inorganic groups owned by Leutgard that exist to give a false dichotomy that these are organic groups fighting for victory. There is no victory for Krasnovia. There is no victory for Britannia. They exist for Teutonia to win every single battle. They will cheat every raid, exploit every raid, until they have destroyed the group, and then make another group to repeat the process to give an illusion of victory for Teutonia. That is his goal. That is his vision for the genre and all groups that are part of that vision. One single map that every group will play, similar to Aleczaender's vision for the genre. However, the only groups that will play that map are the groups that are owned by Leutgard. The observer nations will not have a place or a seat at that table. The genre would have full-scale battles limited to historical themes, which would be predetermined, set, and planned to ensure a Teutonian victory, as I already described. An example of that is when Teutonia says, I want a 50v50 player-based raid at a fair zone raid map. They bring 50 of their best guys. You bring 50 of just all of your guys that you got. They will also exploit in that raid to win. As opposed to the Aleczaenderian vision, which is raids are not based on 50v50 fair zones. They are based on resources, economy. They are based on geography, where they are, strategy, logistics, tactics that win battles, that win victories. Battles should not be a soccer match. They should not be a sports match like esports. They should be based on strategy and logistics to win the battlefield based on strategy, numbers, skill, and resources that garner victory by using resources to buy better vehicles, better weapons, etc., etc. Way more fun and interesting than what Leutgard has, which is this weird fair zone, esports way of doing raids. What is the foreign policy of Aleczaender and Leutgard? Well, for Aleczander, he is an imperialist. He believes in expansion. He believes in outreach, influencing all the groups around Octavium. He has provided Hubbard states with funding, development, and assistance, meaning that when he promises to give them funding and assistance, he actually provides it. He is willing to work closely with other groups in the Octavian/Spanish theater. He is actually good allies with EAE, another Spanish empire, as well as other groups in that region. He does not annex those groups. He does not puppet those groups. He works closely with them to garner a good friendship with them rather for a common goal and interest. Speaking of common goal of interest, he prefers to ally and work with other groups that have ideological and moral goals. Groups that believe that Christ is king. Groups that believe in traditionalism, in a genre that is led by people who have the best intentions for the youth. It is not based on being advantageous. It's not based on, we both want to dox Aleczander, we want to dox Leutgard, let's work together. It is based on morals. It is based on ideology, as it should be. The alliance that he calls this is called the Global Order of the Divine. And when faced with hard enemies, Aleczander fights to the last bitter end. Leutgard, on the other hand, is an isolationist. He does not believe in outreach. He does not believe in getting involved in other groups and helping them out and being interested in them. He believes in only Teutonia. Teutonia only, Teutonia first. And that does sound kind of base when you hear it like that. But that does not mean that he's putting... Obviously, the genre is really the country. The genre is the country. And when you're putting only your little corner of that country first over the rest of that genre, then there's an issue. And that's why it's not productive to be that way, right? He promises funding and development. He does not deliver funding or development. He believes in the total annexation of all groups that are Germanic or within the German theater, and he will work with any group that is willing to devote all their time, resources, and energy towards the same struggles that Teutonia is fighting. Leutgard is on ally with people that are like-minded. He's on ally with people that have the same goals. He allies with people that want to destroy the exact same enemies that he has. That is the only time he will ever work with people, because the ends justify the means. The enemy of his enemy is his friend always, because it is all about destroying his enemies for the one final victory. He dubs this alliance of allies the Realms Pact. And when faced with hard enemies, he instantly retires and appoints a Realms president to run the show when faced with struggle, adversaries, and hard times. Let's look at their controversies between Aleczander and Leutgard. Aleczander has been labeled a racist, anti-Semite, homophobe, transphobic, xenophobe, misogynist, male chauvinist, white nationalist, crystal fascist, who loves Hitler, loves Stalin, loves North Korea, agrees with HSNet being 16, as it is in 32 states. He believes that 6 million Jews is an exaggeration when it comes to the Holocaust, allegedly. He is a griper. He is Nick Fuentes' top guy. He is formerly Trump's top guy in Michigan. He used to LARP as a Nazi 10 years ago. He is a Roblox cult leader and grooms young people into politics. Based. Who is Leutgard? Well, he raped little kids on an island or something. He indoctrinated a fellow Northwestern patriot to fly an airplane to a little island. He has way too much gay sex. Way too much gay sex. He only loves Nazism because it would empower the gay sex empire. He only loves Kim Jong-il because his reclusive, depraved lifestyle is relatable to him. He is the most relatable dictator to Leutgard. He used to do gun running a long time ago when he was in Northwest to fund the Roblox Reich. He now works in a measly government office. He wants to recreate the Holocaust, but instead of it being Jews, it is Christians being gassed. He performs sex magic rituals with fellow homosexuals to increase his aura amongst other fellow degenerative, secularist, satanic atheists. And he runs the largest cybercriminal empire on Roblox. Not a good guy. Obviously, that is a joke. That is not the actual list, although it would be funny if that was the actual slide. The actual controversies that Aleczaender is accused of is being friends with Nick Fuentes. He is accused of making Christo-fascist corporate empires on Roblox. He's been accused of fraternizing with women at political events. In other words, he gets a lot of bitches, allegedly, at political events. Rumor has it, though, that Aleczander is actually a incel. He does not get bitches. He is loyal to the Roblox empire. He is loyal to the Octavian empire. He does not get bitches. He's not talked to women. That is a lie. That is bullshit. He doesn't think that it's weird for 20-year-olds to be friends with 16-year-olds and doing Bible study with them and red-pilling them on politics and religion. He believes, actually, that they should do that to, if a 20-year-old is a good influence and a good mentor, to influence them to have a relationship with Jesus Christ, to mentor them and push them in the right direction. He has been accused of indoctrinating his members into Christian nationalist ideology. He calls the parents of doxer children when things get a little too far. He is accused of grooming barely 18-year-old girls into Christian marriages and runs his group like a dictator governed by the ideology of Zaenderism. He might be a little too discriminatory towards degenerates. He has a no-ego policy. Women are oftentimes conscripted into diner groups where they work in a kitchen and serve food to the members of the group. The community is described as a personality cult under Aleczander and was accused of harboring groomers. What are Leutgard's controversies? He was close acquaintances with Harold Covington, the leader of the Northwest Awakening. He is a former self-proclaimed National Socialist. He now claims to be an apolitical actor, acts like Kim Jong-il most of the time, has bragged about having sex with hundreds of guys, as well as women more recently, believes the minimum legal age for drinking should be 16, and covered up the Fra Autumn grooming situation and took action months after the fact, which is not talked about that often. Should be talked about way more than it is. The group is literally a one-to-one based on Nazi Germany, weaponized the RSO as an organization to compile the information of potential opposition, dox enemies of Leutgard, worked closely with the Regios and Cadans to launch a crusade, doxing/swatting, on his enemies, notably on Aleczander, openly attacks Christianity, openly brags to his underage members about going to brothels and drinking alcohol, openly brags to underage members also about having gay sex with twinks, weaponizes his stalemated to control the Arbor 2 community, hates transgender people, based, silences opposition, accused of acting like a totalitarian dictator, and used to indoctrinate his members into Nazism pre-2019. Those are his controversies that he is accused of. And last but not least, lifestyle. Again, more of a silly slide than a serious criticism. Who is Aleczander? Works a high-paying sales job. Roblox profits go back into the group. He does not profit from his own group. He often flies out of the country for politics and work alongside his members, who he invites and gets them jobs and networking opportunities at. He is a hard worker. Building empires is what makes a man. He works out. He is a workaholic. Spends only part of the day on the computer. Most of the time is spent working on the group or doing work. If he is online at 3 in the morning and is not playing Twitter or Napoleon, that is actually a glitch because I have the Darth mod thing open. That is why it says it's playing Napoleon at 3 in the morning. Actually, at 3 in the morning, he is building his empires. He touches grass so much that Aleczander is constantly having to drive home to fix every time there are. Whenever there are problems going on, Aleczander's never home to fix it because he is out and about living his life, working hard. That's why these videos take so long to be done. It's because I'm so busy all the time doing other shit. Last but not least, he stays up late to work on the group or brainstorm plans for the future. What does Leutgard do in his lifestyle? Leutgard works a low-paying government job. Most of his income comes from Roblox. often flies out around Europe for vacation and sex tourism. He's not doing it because he's cool, building empires, making connections, and rising up the social ladder. He's doing it to be a degenerate, sex tourism, drinking out and about and having a blast. And I have a blast too when I go out. I'm not saying that that doesn't happen when I go out. But there's a goal to these things. More than just having fun. Hard work and working out is what makes a man. So what makes a man according to Leutgard? Well, dominating twinks and having sex is what makes a man a man. This is the man who is running Teutonia, by the way. He doesn't work out, but he reads books. I'm not a big book reader, but he is. He thinks that reading books is a big deal when it comes to philosophy and intelligence. He is an alcoholic as opposed to a workaholic. He spends all day at a computer, whether it's at home or at work, and his leisure time is spent drinking at the pub or at a brothel, apparently. He barely touches grass. Often when he is touching grass, it's the grass outside the pub when he is throwing up from overdosing on alcohol, and he's in the grass, puking his lungs out. Other than that, he can recommend whenever problems happen, whenever they happen, whenever there's an AA attack, whenever there is any crisis, he is always within 10 feet of a computer to fix it immediately. That is why you rarely ever see a crisis in Teutonia, because he is always there to fix it. Last but not least, he stays up late, not brainstorming great ideas like Phase 2, like I have planned out, or running the Empire like I do, but rather it's playing Code 2 or Hoi 4 with his inner circle. If you're lucky, you'll catch him playing it with Stalemated, probably, which often only gets about 10 people on a good day. And that is Leutgard and Aleczaender. I've linked in the description of this video the slideshow if you'd like to read it for yourself. It includes all the sources for my information. But we can therefore conclude that the core differences between me and Leutgard, we can now exit the third position, the third, what do they call that? Third point of view. Third position. We can now conclude that Leutgard is not a good leader. He's not a good person. He has terrible morals. He is a retard. He got kicked out of... He not only joined a neo-Nazi movement, which is LARPy and full of feds and retarded, he got kicked out of it for being gay. I mean, it's just a triple, quadruple L. You gotta think of it like this, that this guy is not cool. It's like, you could be a Nazi and be cool. You could be that sounds really bad. You could go to a Halloween party and wear an SS uniform and be kind of cool. There could be like a riz to that. There could be like an aura to that, But like he couldn't even be cool about that. Even when he was trying to be cool about that, he got kicked out for being gay. Like that's there's no one that says that's cool. That's who Leutgard is. That's like people talk about me and say that like people will say, oh, I bet that Aleczander is like greasy and sweaty and that he like smells bad at events or whatever. And it's like, okay, well those are just like theories based on you not liking me because you're in another group or whatever. Like at least when it comes to people talking shit about me, it's things they don't know about. Oh, Aleczander is not 5'9", he's 4'11". Like these are obviously just jokes that people make about me. Leutgard is actually retarded. He probably unironically actually smells like shit from the amount of times he's had people ejaculate in his asshole. That's a very graphic description, but it's true. I mean, think about it. I mean, this is a gross person. It's the picture that I'm painting here. It's gonna sound gross when I describe it in that way because it is gross. Talking about these things. He is not a good leader. It is probably the biggest battle of good versus evil that we've ever had in this community. It is not only about the cool guy versus the loser guy. It's about the good guy versus the bad guy. Good against evil is what it comes down to, really. And if you're not going to be sold on the fact this guy's a loser, if you're not going to be sold on the fact that this guy is a terrible human being, I mean, at least be sold on the fact that if it's not about the morals, and if it's not about like the fact that I'm cooler than him, at least it comes down to the fact that we're successful. We are more successful in some way because we achieve our goals, we achieve our vision. He has no vision. His vision is having gay sex and being Kim Jong-il, and that's it. He doesn't have a vision where he's going to rally 1,000 people. He doesn't have a vision where Teutonia is going to conquer the world. He's too boring to do that. He is a boring loser. That's who if you don't know who Leutgard is, if you don't know who he is by this point, he is a boring loser who has no aura, no charisma, nothing interesting about him. Not even close. And that's who he is. If you're loyal to that guy, then you're lost. You're a lost individual, and you're frankly missing out on something that is fun and epic and based and red-pilled. Pretty much. So, if you are still into Teutonia, or if you're on the fence, you should ask yourself, should the youth be part of this militant atheist homosexuals group with no vision and an AFK simulator game, where they're a cog in the machine and they are basically a robot? Or should they fight for the cool guy who flies out on airplanes with his friends and apparently spends all his time working on his groups, working on his life, on his jobs, making money, making a difference in the world, in everyone's world, doing what is best for his people? Someone who could have betrayed his people and sold them out and didn't do the right thing for the struggle of righteousness between someone who believes in the grassroots common soldier, common person, common peasant that wants a free and active community over this robotic Teutonian retardation. That's what it comes down to. The lie that Teutonia offers this good opportunity for those who believe in what they offer, there is no opportunity there. What? The opportunity of being a high rank and commanding robots that want the exact same thing that you do? There is no war against USM. What war against USM? Like, what victory over USM? You win a raid and then go home and then play AFK Simulator. In Octavium, you know what Octavians do when they win a war? We hold a freaking parade. They march in a parade in straight lines, in straight formations, and then they conquer, then they occupy the land that they fought for, and they patrol the actual map they won. When we declared war against Normandy and won the war, we paradropped into Paris, occupied Paris, and then had lore and roleplay and fun at the very map that we fought at. That is an empire. Those are champions. Those are true winners who fought in a struggle that meant something. Teutonia they fight at Normandy every year, and then they go back home to ABCC and play AFK Simulator. That is the difference between someone that is in Alexander's group and Leutgard's group. And that is the decision that must be made. Are you going to fight for Goyslop, militant atheism? Or are you going to fight for Christ, for the good guys, for the group that actually has the interests of the masses in mind? If you think about it, even if they're not in Zaenderism, the at least the genre vision has the interests of other groups and people in mind. At the very least, accept that. The Teutonians will state that at least they sleep with both eyes closed. Well, we have activity, and we have member counts, and we rally 500 people, and at least, like, our leader has enough power to where he doesn't get put on trial. Okay. They'll never end up like us, I guess. But that's because Leutgard has manipulated and cheated and lied his way into power. The reason you sleep comfortably at night, and the reason why he has that power, is because he effed over everyone, including his own people, to get into that position. By backstabbing close friends, in the same way he backstabbed me through July 6th to get rid of the most competitive group that we've seen in years, he managed to win Game of Thrones. The game's rigged. He's been playing against 2008. Of course the game is rigged. Of course he cheated his way in. Of course there is no even ground. That's why so many people are loyal to me despite getting doxxed. That's why so many people believe in my message despite everything. Because they want me to win, no matter how much this guy cheats his way into winning. If only more people realized that truth and took my side. If only. How much farther we would be. So many people tell me, oh, Aleczaender, I would join you, but I just can't handle 100-player rallies. If every person that told me that joined my group tomorrow, the next rally that we have on next Saturday would have over 200 people at it. Think about that. That's all it takes. I don't want to be cheesy and say, it won't make a difference. It starts with you. But it does. So many people don't even realize that if they just stop complaining that we are only half as good as Teutonia in terms of rallies, in terms of the member count maybe, that they would join. If they even realized how shitty they have it, actually, and how shitty things actually are over there, I think that they wouldn't even be having this conversation with me, where they'd be saying that they have more numbers. They'd be saying, actually, not only do we rally more than Teutonia, because I trusted the plan, but we also are the right side of history. We are the side where we are fighting for God. We are fighting for Jesus Christ. We are fighting for a community where our youth are not be put in a group where they're forced into gay sex empire, but rather they're fighting for the banner of Christ. They're fighting to pray the rosary after rallies. They're fighting to have a group where there is a mock papacy, where they're participating in masses and getting involved in church and working out and getting jobs. Wouldn't you rather that? Leutgard, despite having all the power and ability to create a fun, engaging group that allows discussion, despite all of that power that he has failed in creating a fun, interesting, entertaining group. He has proven himself not only incompetent, but his group boring as a whole. That is essentially what Teutonia is. Boring, a boring goy-slop, gay sex empire that gives the illusion that if you join it and you're a high rank and you have power, that you're part of something great. That you're part of the next big empire that's going to run the genre. Do you know how long Teutonia has existed? 3 years. But do you know how long Leutgard is making groups for? In 3 years, it will be 20 years. And yet Teutonia is still the same energy that it was for many, many years. It is the same exact thing. And it will never change. Because Leutgard has no vision. Leutgard has no emotion. You are serving something that will be the exact same thing years down the road. Because there is no vision for it. There is no greater goal or agenda like there is in Zaenderism. Agendas like IRL meetups, bigger rallies, bigger games, better games. They've been promising in Teutonia that they're going to have battles the size of historical battles the size of General Gory's Napoleonic Wars since 2021. 4 years later, it's the same thing. Do you really think that that's going to eventually happen? 4 years later? When Teutonia got deleted, Leutgard wanted to bail out and go do fantasy World War II sci-fi. That's the next thing in mind. If I had the power that Leutgard had, you can trust me that you'd be seeing battles the size of D-Day, with beach landings, airplanes flying over, rallies that have depth and meaning, with pledges and marches and formations and chants and interaction, parades with full-on animations, with, you know, so much lore and interesting content. Leutgard is someone who has the power and does none of that. I am the guy who doesn't even have anything close to that power, and still yet I will achieve it. I will achieve half of it. Because even without all that power, we make it possible through resilience, sheer will, and faith. And that is me versus Leutgard. That is Aleczander versus Leutgard. So why must we win? Because the masses, the youth, the genre depend on it. Okay? They depend on it for something greater. You're tired of these docs wars? You're tired of AK Simulator? Okay. Then leave Teutonia, join the Order State, join Zaenderism, sign up, okay, take the pledge. I will serve, kill, and die for Aleczander. And then you will see results. And then you will see things greater than you've ever imagined happen. Trust me on that. That's why we must win. Because at one point, I wasn't here. At one point, I was retired. And then I came back. Why? Why did I come back? Because everyone was bored of Teutonia. They were bored of a degenerate freak running their group. And they were ready for someone that was bold and controversial and based to just take the genre by the balls and create something new and refreshing. And that's why we came back. If you want that to happen, then you must give us the energy, the service, the time to win. For those who are not in my group, give it a shot. You don't know unless you try it. And that's why we must win. If you don't like me, don't like my group, don't like who I am, okay, whatever. You shouldn't be in Teutonia. Because Teutonia sucks. Okay? It sucks because the leader is a loser. It sucks because it is degenerative. The morals, there are no morals. There is no morality. Morals go out the window. Well, there's no online dating. There is online dating. It's just behind the scenes. It's covered up. It's all covered up in behind the scenes. Okay? You think that because they slapped down a law that they're more anti-degenerative than we are? You know who told me that, by the way, was Hansel. Yeah. She cut it out of her recordings, unfortunately, but that's why we must win. We must win because, God willing, this genre will either be led by a militant atheist homosexual who thinks that a man is made by drinking alcohol and gay sex, or the genre will be led by a Christian, a man who tells his members to wait until marriage, who wants to work out, tells his members to work out, encourages getting jobs, encourages things that are of value. Make your choice, R2. And that's why we must win. So thank you all for watching. This was a little bit of a different video, different vibe. Hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, leave it a like and an upvote. That's the same thing. Retard moment. Leave a like, a comment, subscribe. We got a lot of people subscribing lately. We've gained over 100 in the last month and a half maybe. So thank you all for watching. Again, this is Aleczander, and stay tuned for more. It's not over yet. It's not over yet. What, my life? Nope.